Hey guys, it's me, Golden Freddy! Oh! It's time for another video where I criticize a game. 2 games, actually. What's better is that nobody will get mad at any of the criticism I make this time because these games both have a collective fan base of 0. And also, I made them! They're my games! I'm going to go through the bad mechanics, the good mechanics, and what I would change if I made them today. Starting with the better of the 2 games, Rogue Rhythms. It's a combination of a roguelike and a 4-key rhythm game akin to Osu-Mania or FNF. That FNF comparison being very prevalent as the chart editor for the game is literally just FNF's psych engine. In the core loop, you choose a character and then try to get to the end of a run by progressing across nodes. There are 5 types of nodes in the game, and they are as follows. Song nodes are the most common and just require you to beat a song. It also displays the difficulty of the song on top of it. Shop nodes let you buy items. Note nodes give you notes to add to your deck. They can either give good notes or bad notes depending on the type. Upgrade nodes let you upgrade certain note types, and boss nodes make you fight a boss song. The general order is a song node, a bad note node, oh my god, that is a tongue twister, and the choice of a shop, good note, or an upgrade note. It's really simple and also where my first issue shows up. You don't have a lot of choice to make on the map. It usually just comes down to picking the easiest song and picking the shop. The game in general just has no reward for picking harder options. You just go with the easiest most of the time and are rewarded immensely. This ties into the core game design principle of risk versus reward. The amount of risk should directly correlate to the potential reward you get as a result of that risk. Something like Devil Deals on Isaac are an amazing example of this. You can get pretty decent to outright overpowered items via Devil Deals, but these come with the risk of losing max health and lock you out of Angel Deals. You trade your survivability and later easy access to decently powerful items for raw power. The way I would rework this. Oh my god, that is the tongue. Why are there so many tongue twisters in the script? The way I would rework this nowadays is by adding branching paths. Similar to games like Inscription, you could take a path with much harder songs with more risky gimmicks and be rewarded with a bunch of good items, or you could take a path with much easier songs but with much less options for good rewards. Speaking of gimmicks, I would make it so certain songs have gimmick modifiers on them to add more weight to your choices. Do you take an easy song with a random gimmick and potentially face death, or play a much harder song with no gimmick and let your skill carry you? My next issue is related to the item and note deck systems. They are both very surface level, like Dandy's World level surface level. The items are essentially just one-time boosts that are all separate from each other. There are only a few items with any sort of interesting things you could do with them, like the dice, allowing you to break shops if you keep re-rolling them, and the fridge, which allows you to save items for later. The notes have a similar issue. They don't really interact with each other. Each note is just kind of stacked on top of each other. Sure, if you combine a bunch of bad notes with weird debuffs, then it can get pretty confusing, but that's just because of screen clutter. There are no 2 notes in the game where if you combine them together in your deck, they actually make your deck better. The way I would fix this is in 2 ways. First, I would do something similar to Nubby's Number Factory and make it so all your items have a trigger condition. Items will no longer just be a one-time consumable, they will actually fucking matter to the game. You could even make it so more interesting builds could be made by adding items that trigger other items, meaning you could stack them and create super powerful builds. To balance this out, the inventory would have a hard limit to how many items you can carry. That way, you would have to actually think out a strategy instead of just spamming a railgun into a single item to trigger it 10 million times a second. I would also make certain notes able to trigger items or have specific effects depending on your item loadout, which would add even more strategy. The idea here is to make it so your loadout is bigger than the sum of its parts. The biggest issue of the game, however, is kind of inherent to how it's designed, and that is the rhythm game community itself. Rhythm gamers, as you may know, are usually pretty fucking good at their games. By making a 4-key rhythm game with no real mechanical difference to its core loop outside of the roguelike mechanics, I was basically inviting rhythm gamers who are already good at 4-key to just completely destroy the game and be instantly amazing at it, leading them to be bored. This resulted in me having to port harder songs from other games, leading to basically an endless arms race until I made hard mode, which is nearly physically impossible for people who aren't at least top 1k in Osu-Mania. This could have been fixed by making a more unique base for the game outside of a generic 4-key VSRG. I actually was working on a sequel to Rogue Rhythms a little bit ago that addressed this exact issue. It's canceled now. It's never coming out. The core game was a lot more similar to Sound Voltex, but had a few more unique mechanics like full board notes and not requiring a $300 custom controller made from China to play. I have one of those. What the fuck? This more unique base would have made it so that people who are already good at 4-key would have some sort of challenge getting into the game and learning how to play well. High level play in the game would have also had a much more interesting focus on finger positioning and the finger equivalent of DDR's crossovers. That's all I got for Rogue Rhythms. On to the second game of this video. Nerf Apocalypse Revived, unlike Rogue Rhythms, is actually kinda fun despite its flawed nature. I think most of the reason it's so enjoyable is because Sleepy actually tried to salvage this game and failed because of its fundamental flaws. Let's start with the core loop. The core loop involves you running around a stage and shooting aliens until you kill enough for the shop to spawn. Repeat that a few times and a helicopter will show up, allowing you to win the run. There's also random upgrades and throwables that spawn randomly that you also need to go and grab. My first issue with the game is the health system. Getting hit never feels impactful because you have so much health you can restore super easily. When replaying the game, I never noticed enemies dealing damage until I was at like 1 HP. This is mostly because of the high amount of health you have and the low amount of damage the enemies deal. How would I fix this? Well, I have to invoke a forbidden form. Something I never thought I'd have to do. I'm gonna have to look at Danny's World for good game design. That's right. Danny's World actually did one good thing with its gameplay out of a 1,000 bad things. And that's the health system. Each hit actually feels impactful due to there not being any in-between states and you not really having that much max HP at all. This is something that a lot of Danny likes don't understand. To be fair, this is a thing in a lot of roguelikes. The Binding of Isaac has basically the same system but with more depth and a higher cap. Due to also being a bullet hell, I would probably take more from Isaac's systems, honestly. It's just Isaac is a better game. Since health feels more impactful, enemies would also need a major rebalance. Some like the Spitter are basically impossible to dodge due to their projectile being so fast. I would make the projectile slower. Or fuck you! Ultra kill parries! On to my next issue, the bullet system. The bullet system is like if you took the grind out of unlocking characters in Danny's World. Sure, they don't take long to unlock now, but there's still an issue with some being objectively better than others. Half the bullets in this game are essentially unusable because I just thought, what if I make bullet do 3 times damage for no reason? Genius, I tell you. The bullets all have pretty unique effects too, which I think makes it worse. You're essentially punished for experimenting by having a much weaker build. The way I would fix this is by making the bullets all unlocked from the start, but no longer selectable in shop. Instead, you will gain different bullet types randomly in some way, which I'll get into later with a different rework. The map design in this game has 2 states, flat plane and the stunlock zone. The maps need much better planning so insane stuff doesn't happen. For example, in the airship, some enemies will fall into the void because the ship they spawn on is too far away from the main ship to be able to jump, causing them to fall off and die. There's also an issue with the flat plane levels where the optimal strat is to just jump over the enemies a bunch until they all die, which is boring as hell. Speaking of the stunlock zone, let's talk about the enemy AI. Enemies in this game are clearly only built for the flat plane maps, as the slightly more complex airship makes them consistently get stuck in weird spots. Like, how does this happen? How is I so fucking ass at coding? Both of these issues would be fixed with some better planning and coding experience. The maps need a bigger variety of layouts that allow the unique movement to flourish, and the enemies need to be less that, whatever that is, kill it. My last issue is with the run variety. The runs have very little room for experimentation due to 2 major factors. Oh my god, I cannot count. That's actually 3. Fuck. Anyways, 1, there are very few upgrades and weapons in the pool, and most are just static stat boosts. 2, there are very few enemy types, and they each don't have much depth. And 3, certain guns just become worthless later into the game due to later guns being objectively better than earlier ones. Here's my proposition for a big rework: gun crafting. The first part of this rework is that instead of guns being all static, you can create guns from different parts you scavenge from around the map or buy from shops, with each part having different stats. Once you use all the parts to create a gun, it is locked in and you can't convert it back. Speaking of parts, the barrel of the gun is the most important part. Depending on which barrel you choose, you will gain a different alt fire. Shotguns can let you slug dump, rifles allow you to slow down and increase your accuracy and headshot damage. Machine guns let you fire a piercing beam. I don't fucking know what to do for machine guns. This will add tons of depth to creating cool and unique builds. The thing is, you can't just use the most powerful parts for the gun for 2 reasons. 1, different guns require different ammo. Ammo is now a limited resource that drops from enemies in very sparse amounts, and losing all of your ammo for a gun essentially makes it useless. Of course, since guns are easy to dispose of, if you don't like their ammo type, just throw it at an enemy and blow them up. 2, heavier parts can reduce the second part of this rework, runes. Runes are spells that you can either find from killing enemies or buy from a shop. These will replace ammo types as they're the main way to modify how your guns work. The heavier and more base power your gun has, the less runes you can apply. This encourages players to try out a balance of weaker and stronger parts to find an equal balance depending on if they prefer upgrades or base power. With all of these changes, the game would be significantly better as a roguelike and would have a ton of replayability, letting you mess around with a bunch of cool combos. And that's all the games. Now on to the fucking, I don't know how to transition to the outro. This video exists for 3 main reasons. A, so that I can make fun of my old works because they suck ass. B, to take a look at how my interests in game design tastes have changed over time. And C, so that other people could learn from my mistakes and make better games. I hope you learned something about game design from this video and could go on to create significantly better games than these. They suck ass and you shouldn't play them.